Okay, so today we're going to look at how to initialize the new project management setting in SAP in the 9.2 version, and then look at different settings and create a mock project and look at how you can set a few stages and how invoices and other documents can tie in, as well as activities, production orders. So first you want to go to administration in the system initialization, company details. At the very bottom here, I already have it enabled, but there's just a checkbox. Just check that and hit OK, and that'll open up all the settings and features that come with it. So some setup features are going to be in the setup at the very bottom here under project management. So the stages that you can set for the projects are all user defined, so we can kind of form these to however we want. It gives you a basic setup of that, but let's say if we had additional stages that we wanted to do or something else that we wanted in there worded differently, we can change that. For now, we can leave it like that just for example purposes. And then the activity types, that plays into the timesheet that we can look at later. Basically kind of pulls in with the financial project how what type of labor item you would have, depending if it's development or consulting or support. So we can look at that later. So if we go all the way to the bottom, that's where you're going to find project management, and we want to open up a new project. I briefly just started a new one, so we can just look at that. So project type, you have external, internal. And the one we'll do is external just because that's what you would use for like an implementation planning. Internal would be for if there's a bigger project you're working on internally, setting up like a new company warehouse or something like that. But that wouldn't be the case for us today. So everything external is obviously going to be tied to a business partner because you're doing a project for them. You have similar information that you do in other documents, contact person, sales person, owner. So you have that, and then over on the right, project name. You can make that whatever. I just basically named it Parameter Tech Implementation because that's the business partner we have. The status, you can put whatever you'd want there. Most of the time it's going to be started or finished. I guess if there's an issue in between, you would pause or stop. The start date, due date, closing date, just like any other document in SAP, you can define those how you'd like. The open activities we'll see later is there's activities that you can tie to the project, and those will automatically update in here, just showing how many there are. The percent complete, that's automatic as well. We'll see in the stages. You can actually do a percent complete for each, or how much the percentage is for each stage that for the whole project. And as you mark that stage completed, this will update and say, the project's this and this much percent complete. And then the way that all the billing ties into the project is with the financial project, which is something that was already in SAP. And you can just go in here if you wanted and create a new one, or go to financial projects. And this basically is just the link that you can create in invoices, purchase orders, whatever for the project that you need. You can just mark that financial project in there, and then that'll know it's tying in with this implementation. So if we look at the options down here, the overview, this will show you your sub-projects, which we can look at in a second. Risk level for the project, implementation, it's probably going to be low. It's a pretty standard thing. If you want to create an industry, if it's manufacturing or whatever, you can do that. And then any comments about the project, if there's notes that need to be said for the overview. There is also a remarks tab that's a lot more extensive if there's a lot more that you need to right in there, but I guess this would be more brief if there's like a phone number or something for a contact person. So then the stages, so these stages are what we can define up in the general settings. So for each one, you might have a few different, like this is like a stage type, I guess. So for each stage type, you could have more than one stage. So let's say we did conception and initialization or initiation. We could do like a, like a kickoff meeting or an intro to what we're going to do, like a blueprint. And then you might also have installing SAP as another, initiation. So we could even put kickoff meeting, and then we could put SAP installation, just to get a few examples in here. Start date, end date is, I guess, an estimate. We could say today. That meeting will take, I guess, just a day. And then the installation, we could say 2 days for that. And then for the task, you can define those as well. They are not in the setup menu. You have to define them through here. So you can, put whatever you want there, what type of task it is. I guess you could use this kind of like to show skill sets. If it's like an engineering task, a development task, you could put development. If it's a consulting task, you could put consulting. If it's a financials task, you could put that. It's just kind of, to separate stuff a little bit more. The planned cost is going to be, again, user-defined, and you can set a cost for how much each stage you think is going to cost, and that is kind of the base for the next 4 columns, which are all system maintained based on any attached invoices or purchase orders, whatever you attach to the document, and there is a breakdown that you can see all that. And then the percent complete, like I said, with the percent complete up here, the kickoff meeting could be, 5%. Installation could be 5%. And then if you were to like mark one of these as finished, that'll update up here that 5% of the project is complete. And we can leave that there. For now, the owner, you could set a different owner for each stage, I guess kind of tying back into the tasks. Different skill sets could call for different owners of each project. And then the stage dependencies, let's say you had another stage, maybe installing add-ons. So let's say that would be, I guess none of those really fit, but again, you can change the stages as you'd like. So that you wouldn't be able to install any add-ons necessarily until you install SAP. So then a stage dependency for installing add-ons could be to install SAP. So these are kind of prerequisites that need to be done prior to doing the next stage. Let's give that a 1, 2. Okay. And then so let's take a look at the sub-projects. So generally the stages will do for everything, but let's say you have a stage that is kind of its own projects. You can enable sub-projects right here. And then you would forget how to.
Then you click on updates.
There is a way to set a stage to be a sub-project. Oh, okay, here it is. That's right. So you would add a new sub-project. And it's kind of like adding another project, but it's a stage in a project. So again, that would be like if you have a stage that really has a number of different steps to it, it would probably be better to put it into a sub-project. And I think a good example would be like a development. Like if there's a custom development, um, project that needs to be done, that might have different stages. You would have your development stage, your testing phase, having, the customer approve it, whatever. So that's going to be something that be more intuitive to needing more stages of a sub-project. And you can see that, for the most part, the options are all the same. It's going to have its own planned cost, and that will all tie in with, the other costs. And the summary is actually where you're going to be able to see everything. Again, it's for the most part all system maintained. You'll see here the sub-project budget, the accumulated budget, sub-project again. So that's just kind of, information on, I guess, all the finances of the project for everything that is tied to the project. So then the remarks, like I said, is just open text field. Attachments, you can attach anything you want really to this project. However, if you did want to attach something to a particular stage, and I think a good example would be, let's say, the SAP installation. If there's a document on, that SAP installation, you can go to attachments at the bottom here, browse for it and attach it, and then whenever, you hover over this stage, it's going to show the SAP installation right here, the document. You could do the same with, like, let's say if there's a kickoff PDF or something, any, notes or instructions. So those can be tied to each stage. And I guess we might as well take a look at these, the rest of these options. So the open issues, again, are defined by stage. So you can create any, anything you'd like here. For the most part, all user defined. This would be if there's a particular issue that comes up in any of these stages. So let's say there's a limitation in development, that could be an issue, or if a testing found that, something wasn't working properly, that could be an issue. And it gets extensive description, who's responsible, who the tester, I guess, would be who found that issue. And then if there's any estimated cost as to how much it's going to cost to fix that, you can put that in there as well. Attachments we went over, again, by stage you can add, whatever documents would be relevant. Documents, those would be the, invoices, there's anything that you'd like to attach to this particular project. Everything is going to be in here except for production orders, which are in their own category. They're going to be under the work orders. So those are kind of, their own section attached. And then activities as well you can attach to the project. And you don't have to, let's look at the documents again, you don't have to go in manually and pick what type and what document number. You can if for some reason you didn't attach it. But I guess that's something we can look at next. So let's say we had a AR invoice for customer, and it was, let's just say development. I just have to pick
or something.
Yeah.
Or
Receivables.
for something.
Okay, so total, let's say 200. So if you go to the accounting tab, that's where you'll see the BP project. And if you put the financial project here that's tied to this project, we add this. So that ties it to this project, and then the next time I'll just cycle, to a kind of refresh this page. If we would close this or reopen this, or if you go to a different project, come back to this project, the next time you come to this project, it will say there's unassigned documents in the system because we tied it to that financial project, which is tied to this project, and it basically wants us to assign them to a stage, which you don't have to do, but you can. So, and this breaks down by line item. So let's say that our invoice had development, consulting, support, 3 different categories. You can take each line item and move them to a different stage. So it's not that everything invoiced in one document has to be moved to the same stage. So then you would just, say that was consulting. Let's say that was the SAP installation. We could just move that over there and assign that. And that should, you'll see then it comes down, comes up down here. It should be after the SAP installation. And you'll notice it doesn't come up if I click on Install Add-ons because we assigned it to that particular stage. And we should see in right here in the summary or showing the finances that $200 that we charged for the consulting is now attached to this project. So that is that. Another thing that was new with the feature, if you come down to human resources, the timesheet, this is basically a way to just track time that you worked with a client or worked on something. I guess we don't have any employees defined. But this would be internal, so you would choose the employee internally that did the activity, what department, first and last name would obviously pull from the ID, and then you could just put multiple entries in there. So let's say it was for today. The start time would be, let's say, 8 a.m. and we went till 12. The activity type, so that is, as we looked at earlier in the setup, those are all defined as well. So, you could put development, consulting, and then, whatever labor items, you have created in there. You could, choose depending, on the different different cost for each activity is, it's going to be different. So you can set that up with the labor item there. You'll notice that it actually has it in here as well. But that'll pull in as soon as, you pick one of these. This obviously isn't going to show because I just updated that. If we go back in there, you'll see that the labor item automatically shows up in there. Financial project obviously is going to be whatever wanted. If you have a cost center, and then this is where you would, the billing would come into place. So if there was a break during that time of being there 2 hours, I think this would work best for on-site work because you're usually committing yourself for the 8 hours in the day. So a break, you could put that. If there was non-billable time, you could put that. So you'll see that there's only an hour billed. If we just put, and the day 2, obviously it could be numerous activities. This could be over multiple days. But I guess we'll just add the one activity. That's right. So we can't add that, but I mean the general purpose. You can see in that. So that's pretty much the overview, unless there's something else that you have a question on.
Thank you everybody for joining our session, and thank you Chris for walking us through that. Thank you.